Open. Remember that? What was that? Marshall's commercial?
Open, open.
Open. Well, that doesn't look right. Never mind.
Nice one, Brian.
Hello, my friends.
Thank you for joining us for the PEBCAK Podcast, weekly information security show featuring some all-around good people. It is week 2 of 2025. I'm Chris Louie, and still poning Christmas noobs in Call of Duty.
What?
With me, I have my co-host, the Cloud God, who canceled his trip due to global warming.
I thought you said
Yes.
honing nudes on Call of
Poning
Duty.
noobs.
Oh, okay.
Christmas noobs.
Sorry, man.
Well, he
Called
was
Christmas
doing that
noobs.
too. Yeah.
Because, kids get Call of Duty for Christmas, they never play the game, then you go in there and you just destroy them.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, so I did have to cancel my old trip to DC because of the weather, so that was kind of whack. And then I did think, I was like, I'll probably play some more Fortnite, but sadly I did not. In true Deej fashion, I only played Fortnite up until New Year's Eve, and then I was done. And I got my my victory royale, and I'm good to go.
I don't have time for that. How do you guys play games?
Quit while
There's
you're
no
on
way.
top, right, Deej?
Yeah.
Hey, you got some time off, and no one's home. It's a little bit of me time, right?
Yeah.
It was literally
I think about playing games.
went to the gym in the morning, hung out with my brother, my sister-in-law, my 2 nephews. They left. Ate some food, video gamed, and went to sleep. That like because my wife and my other daughter were out of town, so I just vibing. That's why I had time. I had nothing else to do. We were
Eat,
closed.
game, sleep, repeat.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't have time to game.
And we have Glenn Medina, who came to my neighborhood and didn't bother telling me.
Is that
Oh.
really your neighborhood, though? Is that really your neighborhood?
You're
It
across
is.
the street from where I was, Glenn.
Yeah, it's true.
I consider that name neighborhood.
You wouldn't come out to come see me anyway. You were busy. So,
No, it was, unfortunately.
yeah.
Still
Next
nice to
week.
be included, though, Glenn.
There's always next week, Chris.
Alrighty. Our guest this week is Locke Langdon. Locke is the Chief Information Security Officer over at Aprio. We crossed paths at one of your previous employers. I'd like to welcome you to the show. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Pleasure to be here. I'm Locke Langdon. As mentioned, I'm a CISO at Aprio. They're a top 25 financial services firm focusing on tax and compliance. I've also, as mentioned, held leadership roles at McKesson, where I built out a global analytics and automation division. I've also spent many years in healthcare at places like Mayo Clinic and Stanford, and also spent some time at Splunk as a sales engineer.
Oh man, I just wanna just ask you, pepper with you with questions all day long, but I don't think we have time for that. But one day, Locke, we're gonna have beer and just hang out. Sorry.
Well, the real reason I'm here is Brian called me out on LinkedIn and forced me to come to this podcast.
I love Brian. Good job, Brian. Nice work.
And I know I texted him. I was like, "You ready, buddy?" I mean, you said. And he's like, "Thanks for the notice." I'm like, "It's no big deal. We got this. We
yeah,
got
it's easy.
this."
Do it live. We'll do it live.
Do it live. Unfortunately, Glenn, the Ask Me Anything is at the end of the podcast. And we only have Glenn for the first half, so we'll have to get Locke back on for a part 2 then.
There you go.
Or he'll actually have to listen to the podcast himself for the part he missed.
That's true. Good luck. And thanks for coming on as a guest
Absolutely.
last minute.
Yeah,
we
thank
have
you so much.
7 other victims to that I'll be inviting here in the upcoming weeks that engage with the post as well. So
Yeah, I got to say, like, we've had a few CISOs on our program before as guests, and Locke, when he first turned on his camera, I was like, yeah, that is definitely a CISO. And, when Sam Curry was on, like, yeah, that is definitely a CISO. But when you look at, like, Ben Coral, I'm like, this guy looks like a Ginzu knife salesman. Like, he doesn't strike me as the CISO type.
Oh,
well, Locke is
Shade
he's actually one of
thrown.
the people that's actually taller than me.
Oh,
Yeah.
so Brian's
Yeah.
threatened by him.
yeah.
I am. I hate people that are
I
taller
don't know
than me.
about that.
You're only like 5'7", right? You're only 2 inches taller than me, Brian.
Oh my gosh, you wish, buddy.
When
Last
he's
time I
laying
saw you
down
bouncing
short.
on my knee, I asked you what you wanted for Christmas.
All right.
Love you, Ben. Combined, we have decades of information security experience here, not just to educate, but to entertain. We've got 4 awesome stories for this week, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. This week, we're going to talk about a government warning label I can actually get behind. North Korea stops stealing cryptocurrency. For our third topic, healthcare legislation is finally updated after 12 years, and close with career transition talk. For our first topic, this week, the White House here in the U.S. announced the launch of the U.S. Cyber Trust Mark, a new cybersecurity safety label for internet-connected consumer devices. Originally announced in 2023, the labels will help American consumers make better decisions for internet-connected devices like security cameras, TVs, baby monitors, appliances, and fitness trackers. Vendors will label the products with the Cyber Trust Mark logo if they meet the NIST standards for their cybersecurity criteria. These criteria include things like using unique and strong default passwords, software updates, data protection, and incident detection capabilities. The mark will also inform consumers whether or not a company plans to stand behind the product with software updates and for how long. So I think this is much needed update to all the internet of crap that's out there.
Come on now. Like, what are we talking about here? So you go to the store and it's like that UL listed plug or that power strip, or you buy something on Amazon that has no markings on it and you risk causing a house fire, but you still use it because it was $2, right? Like, I'm baffled here because I think there's going to be a bunch of equipment out there that are not going to have this NIST that people are still going to use because it's at the right price point.
I think this would be like going to the mob and asking them for tax advice. So it's a great idea on paper, but I don't know if I trust the purveyor of truth here.
Not going to get behind NIST here.
I don't know, man. I'm a little skeptical, but rightfully so.
It'll be interesting to see how quick it takes to duplicate the logo and make
like
compelling
fake stickers,
duplicates, and just add a little dot or a heart to make it look a little bit different and confuse people even more.
I didn't think about that, Locke. That's actually great, right? So,
and then embed a QR code that does some type of phishing on there as well. Just really gets you.
That's true. Yeah, the official stickers are actually supposed to have a QR code. So when you scan a QR code, it goes to NIST's website and says, "Yep, thumbs up. This product has been certified."
No, thank you. Definitely, no, thank you.
It's not the same QR code on the Wicked DVD.
Oh, the the toys.
Maybe we can do a QR code, and it's just it's not like a middle finger flipping you off. Like oh, you got, instead of a thumbs down, that's what you get. Your F.
Your giant middle finger. Like, you failed your phishing training.
All I know is if I...
Yeah.
Go ahead, Glenn.
No, go, please.
All I know is if I told my wife, I'm like, we got to look for this sticker, and it means that it's, it's unique and default strong passwords, the first thing she's going to do is like, ugh, I hate the strong password mandate at the Deach household. I am not buying this. Like, it is the bane of her existence. The 2FA, she hates it. Anytime it comes time to, pull a password out, she's like, I'm locked down with the password messenger again. I'm like, oh, come on. Like, it's not, walk her through it. And, all you have to do is touch this. Just touch the button. And it's going to ask you for your MFA. And then you're going to put it in. And then you're good. She's like, that's too much work. I just want the passwords.
That's why you were
Passkeys, Brian. Passkeys.
Yeah. That's why you were so
upset.
That
would be a real certification. I was say that would be a real certification, is the wife approval factor.
Oh, God.
But you know what's I've discovered? She puts everything in the Apple keychain now. So that's the reason why she's not bugging me for it ever. Is she's like, oh, yeah, I just save it in
the Apple Passwords app is pretty good. Like, as long as you stay within the Apple ecosystem, the Passwords app is good.
I'm debating
anything else, then no. But
it's missing a couple of features, though. I'm not gonna lie. There's a couple of features missing, like being able to rotate your passwords and it keeping the last history. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. There's no history on there.
Well, why would Deej's wife need to know her password history? Explain that use case, Glenn.
Well, sometimes as you're rolling through, you want to know, right? What did I use before? So
I've never ever had to use that feature, Glenn.
Really? I've used it a lot. So, but the good news is on this one, on the new one is. But actually, the password complexity isn't that great either. It's either with or without dashes. You can't use any other characters. And it doesn't... I don't know if you can set password complexity. It just says password strength. So that was the other one that's like, could be better. I do like some of the other things. So things like it telling you, here's where you reused your password. Here's where your passwords have been compromised. So I actually went out the other night and changed a whole bunch of passwords. So
You should have like an API.
It's the
to
same
have it
password with an
intoned.
exclamation mark.
yeah, it's I love Brian Deitch, exclamation point, and
And then
don't
the
forget
number,
Chris.
whatever month.
Yeah,
it is of
and
the
don't
year.
forget Chris. Yeah, yeah. So
That was always the joke. There's Wi-Fi, so there's a house Wi-Fi that's protected with the firewall and security and everything. And then there's the Wi-Fi, which is no bells and whistles, just clear access to the internet. Nothing can ever go down.
Do you lock down the house there in your
Absolutely.
kingdom? Ah,
It's always locked down.
what do you do for you don't like? Are you like a firewall guy? You got a SASE product protecting you? You do DNS based?
do you have a browser? So-
Okay, Doug's happy now. Move on.
Couple layers, right? You got the gotta always have the pie hole sitting there, and then you
Okay.
gotta have your WAF. Like the Ubiquity stuff until they got popped a
yeah.
couple years ago. That was fun. So, but
Yeah.
definitely a home network guy. Lock it down.
I will tell
And
you.
DNS.
If it's connected, it's protected, right?
So I gotta ask, like anything else, do you keep the family separated from your prod environment, your lab environment, or do you just kind of
I run most of my stuff on hyperscale now. I use either Google Cloud or DigitalOcean
Okay.
if I'm spinning up like a test environment.
Yeah,
or
but
something like
you
that.
have IoT. Like you're a guy. You've got IoT.
IoT has its own network.
There you go.
yes.
See, that's what I'm talking about.
As a security guy, who always follows best practice.
Yeah.
So did you just plug DigitalOcean? Is that what that was called?
The hosting
No,
provider, yeah.
It's okay. No one's listening, but yeah, I've never actually heard of them. That's interesting. Okay, good product.
Yeah, it's like it's a cloud provider. Just kind of like on the more cost effective end, and more virtual device based. Not so many services or developer focused. Just a good way to spin up a cheap Linux box if you need to.
Oh,
Nice.
got it. Have you guys come
Right.
across this at all?
Ryan's creating an account as we speak.
Yeah.
I know of them. I haven't personally used them for little things. I always just spin up an EC2. It's just a little bit easier since I already have an Amazon account and pay per hour for compute and then just shut it down when I'm done.
I got a ESX server at home, so I just turn that on, turn it off. I don't like to.
You're
Little
gross.
space heater.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially now in the wintertime, it's really good. So.
Warm up the old office.
In the group chat this week, we had Victor being Victor and doing victory things. Anyways, he brought up Maltego, and I never heard of it. So I went on there. I was like, I'm trying to sign up for the community edition. And like, it just kept getting gated. It's like, click here, pay here, it's like all this different stuff. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just buy it. Screw it. It was like 5,000 euro. I'm like, I'm not buying nothing. So 2 seconds later, SDR calls me. So you're interested in buying our product? I'm like, no, I'm not actually at all. He's like, I'll set up a demo. I'm like, nah, man, this is for like morbid curiosity. I was looking at it. I don't have to do any threat hunting. He goes, well, what kind of threat hunting do you need to do in your personal life? I'm like, actually zero. I'm just curious, like what the product actually does, man.
Dude, he gets
Leave me
paid
alone.
on KPIs. You should have just let him demo to you. What are you
Let him do the
doing?
demo.
You should know better than that.
Just give me a meeting, man. Just give me a meeting.
Yeah, just give him
I'm
a
telling
meeting.
you.
He just needs
Can
some
you
more.
imagine? Jay's like, Brian, why did you have a new business meeting with this customer? No, heck no.
Should have just told that SDR the truth. Like some 20-year-old owned me online. I just wanted to get him back.
But it turns out you didn't do anything. You just had to download the app. So the web version of it's not.
Yeah, the thick
free one.
client.
You need a thick client. Yep.
Yeah. Go have fun with that, Brian.
Dude, why on earth can I just plug in any license plate number and get all the information about who's the registered owner of that vehicle? Like that is insane.
It's all public. Like that's the thing. This is all public information. Maltego just aggregates that, makes it a little bit easier to find. There's nothing secret or proprietary about it. It's just aggregates it for you.
Maybe it's just that I don't know where to find it, but like I know my own license plate is. I go out to Google or DuckDuckGo all day long. I'm not going to find anything about that license plate.
Yeah, just gotta know where to go.
Yep. Have you guys ever used Maltego?
No.
No.
I saw a demo of it once and it intrigued me, so I played with it for a little bit. It's true. Just put in a domain. You can start crawling. You can start finding people that use that domain. Do some pretty interesting OSINT stuff on there. Very good for social engineering.
I have a hard enough time pronouncing Nagomi, so. Love you, VDL.
I was wondering what that was.
All right. Second topic, they say necessity is the mother of all innovation, and I think we have yet another prime example of that. According to my friends at the FBI, North Korea is really good at two things: weapons technology development and sanctions evasion. For the last 8 years or so, North Korea was the premier cryptocurrency theft ring out of pure necessity. Due to heavy sanctions on the country resulting from the nuclear weapons research, North Korea has been cut off from the traditional banking system. First, they tried to steal money from the Bangladesh bank by hacking into the SWIFT system, but they had a really hard time withdrawing that cash. They moved on to stealing cryptocurrency. The first half of 2024 was on an absolute tear to set a new record for cryptocurrency thefts, but halfway through the year, somebody put the brakes on and North Korea stopped stealing crypto. Experts over at blockchain forensic company Chainalysis believe this is due to a meeting between North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Russian President Vladimir Putin. After that meeting, Putin unfroze North Korean money that was previously under sanction. North Korea has also moved on to fake worker scams, having North Koreans pose as foreigners and collecting paychecks, stealing data, and extorting companies. So again, necessity is the mother of all innovation.
I'm kind of blown away by that. I kind of thought they were just like a country of misfits that just only believe in their king that is God and shoot flawlessly.
The supreme leader.
The supreme leader. I didn't know they actually had weapons or anything like that. Like I remember it was the threat of the rocket, right? But then, like, nothing actually happened. It fell out of the sky like 5 seconds later. Now you're gonna tell me that they're good at crypto scanning? You're gonna tell me that country that knows nothing about Western civilization can speak English? Or is it at least enough to like scam me out of my crypto?
They actually have a pretty elite hacking organization over there. They're not to be messed with.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, Sony Pictures hack was them. Yeah, after they got mad after they made that movie, The Interview, and they blew up Kim Jong-un.
Still funny. That's a funny movie.
That was a funny movie. Yeah, I don't care what you say. That was hilarious.
Well, if you're listening, North Korea, then Chris says you guys are a bunch of B words, and you can't.
They hate us because they ain't us.
I'm not with him. I'm not with him.
That's how they've been getting money. They just work around the system that we put sanctions on them, and they just create a trace buster, and they just, well, we're just going to use crypto and launder the money, and hasn't cut them off from the banking system.
Sounds crazy. I knew they were really pushing crypto, but I just hadn't heard that they were shifting over now. I mean, we've implemented some policy changes around interviews, with ensuring, everybody's remote now. So we ensure we've got good video communication. We do a secondary check offline, so a lot of companies have really been struggling with people joining interviews and not putting their camera on and then finding out later that they were
a North Korean spy.
Not always North Korean, but yeah, definitely is a real problem out there. Yeah.
Hey, I was working with another company, and they were telling me that they, contract with Clear. Clear will actually do vetting as well based off of their application. So they'll do background checks and do validation side. I thought that was a genius move on Clear side, right? Because you think about it, yeah, diversify.
Whoa, I thought if I'm paying for it, I'm not the product.
Yeah.
Yeah. The problem is
they had to change their.
I was gonna say the problem is they use stolen identity, so the background check will come clean because I'll say I'm Locke Langdon. I worked at this company, I worked at X company, and like it all checks out, but until you see me, and then you see a picture of Locke on LinkedIn, and then, or I could just throw on an AI mask and make myself look like him.
No. They actually have, I guess, protections in place against AI masks. So like I said, instead of having to validate and go to an office and validate you are who you are, you do this through your phone. You kind of do the, your Apple Intelligence or your phone intelligence, right? Where they take an image of your face and you have to move it around, do the 360, so you
gotta put your hand over your face so they can see that it's behaves the way it's supposed to.
Yeah. So pretty interesting. Like I said, I kudos to Clear, because that is it's amazing technology. Now they're moving into a different space, right? Which is validation. So, which is, it's just a larger
you can hit.
Yeah, it's a larger.
You got to diversify.
Yeah. Do you guys use Clear? Anybody use Clear? You guys? It's a great system. Yeah.
Okay, I'm done warming up.
No, I'm pre. That's all I can afford.
Yeah. But you don't travel as much anymore, so.
I don't. That's true.
Yeah.
So, unfun fact, I used Clear. I forget what happened. They did still use it, but yeah, I signed up a couple of kids for it, like, to take it, and they were, I don't know if it was like supposed to be like free, and of course I forgot to cancel it, and so then renewal comes around, $120 per person, so whatever.
Got to set those reminders, Brian.
You do, yeah. It was one of those painful ones. Like I just wake up to the notification from the credit card company. Why did I just have a $700 charge on Clear?
Yeah.
I'd have the jitters too if I was up against me.
Anyone notice that TSA lines are sometimes longer than the regular general boarding now?
It is. That's true.
Yeah,
I'd still rather go in and have to take my shoes off and go through that body scanner. So
yeah, and even though the general line is shorter, I think pre goes faster because those are seasoned travelers. Like, you don't have like, oh, am I supposed to do this? Oh, I forgot to take my water bottle out. Oh, I didn't know I had to take my laptop. Like, you don't deal with those people. Like, when you're in pre-line, it's an assembly line. Yeah. Everybody who's there knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Well, they used to give it away
in general.
They used to, like, I guess, like, if you were 60 or 70 or over, they used to honor, TSA pre-check for that older group. And those are the ones that are like, drove me crazy. You're like, oh my God. But I still don't get it though. Yeah. Like, just help me understand this. You're going through a metal detector and you've got every bit of jewelry on you. Why? Like, why do you need to wear jewelry to go on an airplane? So.
I was coming through Charlotte just this week, and they actually had a bypass for elderly people that said explicitly, you can keep your sweater on, you can keep your jewelry on, don't take your shoes off. Like, they're trying to speed up the lines, I think, by having like special, older senior citizen requirements now. That's really great.
I feel profiled now. Just because
right?
I'm young, it's like I'm under suspicion.
Right.
My wife was busting my chops. She's like, you get randomly selected all the time because you're the way you look. I'll just leave it at that. And sure enough, like it felt like anytime we're going through TSA, it's like random ID, and then I go through the metal detector, like, all right, we get to do the molest you thing. I'm like, all right, with your therapeutic hands. I'm like, I still feel that. And cupping's cupping, but whatever. And
I like the cupping.
Yeah.
It's a
and this last time,
that's
the third. Yeah. And this last time we were coming, we're going to Cancun. She's like, they're gonna get you again. I just flew right by it, but she got busted left, right, and center. All right, so going to Cancun, like through the Sky Harbor, busted, right? Both give me random ID and then the metal detector. We land in Mexico, and then just randomly some federale just like pulls her to the side. It's like, all right, you need to enter your stuff, like in the airport. And then the exact same thing coming back. Like, it was just... actually, no, they're not...
You've been reverse profiled.
Yeah. It's like she got flagged or something.
Something happened.
Did you tell her that was karma for making fun of you?
Yeah, I would love to say that, but it's a whole conversation about...
Brian knows better.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was in healthcare, one of my jobs was in medical imaging, so I was around scanners all the time. I had to wear a little rad badge, and they didn't have TSA pre-check yet, so I'd get up to the little scanner, and some of my favorite words were, I request alternate screening. As Brian mentioned, you get a free massage instead of having to go through the naked scanner and get a little bit more millimeter waves detection on you.
Yeah. Have you noticed that they, even going through pre-check and clear, when you get up to the TSA agent, he wants you to look at the camera, and every single time I'm like, I like to opt out, please. I'm just like, it's my power. Might as well just do it. I'll slow things down.
What do they do instead?
Gotta get your real ID soon.
So they're like, okay, and then they validate something on the from the clear official. But I'm like, I've already done the global entry. You have my handprint. You have my face print. Got all this documentation. Like, why didn't you take my picture again? It's like, leave me alone.
I want to make sure you are who you say you are.
I am.
Not a Korean.
They scan my
applicant to a new job.
eyes, guys. Why do I have to let them take a picture of me?
That's true. Yeah, I don't know what that's for, because you go up there, hand them the ID, and like, yeah, this is, like, you can clearly see the picture is me. I have a flight. Like, yeah, what's the extra picture for? I don't know. I'll never understand.
I'm in here because there's a great Panda Express, and I know that there's like literally 1,000 of them around the valley. But if I could just get the airport version and pay 25% more, that just makes me feel like a better human being.
It's the only place I can get a deluxe hamburger now.
The McDouble.
Good old airport security. But anyways, I thought this was interesting. The fall of cryptocurrency thefts. I mean, there's still like the annoying hackers out there, the kids who steal it to buy Lambos, but North Korea was really the scourge of the cryptocurrency industry. That they were infiltrating cryptocurrency companies. They used a number of 0 days to try to get into like Coinbase and some of these other exchanges. Then just all of a sudden, for no real explicable reason, just their hacking attempt just fell off a cliff, which means they found another source of funding, which is why Locke had to implement extra controls around their hiring process.
It's called selling weapons to Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, aren't there like sanctions? Do they even have the raw materials in country to do that stuff, or they just...
They import it from China. So China is a trading partner still, since they border with them, and then Russia doesn't honor any sanctions whatsoever. So you have this China, Russia, North Korea triangle of happiness, I guess you can call it, and they can coexist.
I didn't know that China was doing business with them. That's crazy.
Yeah, and China...
His trading partner.
China doesn't accept counterfeit currency, but they will accept cryptocurrency.
Great. Can they start accepting Doge and Shiba Inu or whatever we have so I can get rich?
Probably. Yeah. For our third topic on the legal side of things, the U.S. healthcare law HIPAA will finally be updated to include cybersecurity provisions to keep up with evolving threats against the healthcare industry. The Health Insurance Portability and Accounting Act, or HIPAA, has not been updated since 2013, which is an eternity in cybersecurity terms. There are 4 changes to the law to update it for the 21st century, but the most applicable one to this podcast is the requirement to implement security controls. Thank goodness we have a legal basis to require companies to do this now. Healthcare organizations will now be required to employ multi-factor authentication and network segmentation to make it harder for healthcare systems to be compromised. All patient health information will have to be encrypted both at rest and in transit. Vulnerability scans and pen tests are now mandatory, as is removing unused software packages. So basically what every organization should already be doing for basic security hygiene.
So, Locke, do you think that, with your healthcare background, do you think that all these hospitals, not the ones you work for, but just in general, I don't want to call anyone out, they already have this now? Now they have to operationalize it? Or do you think, oh my God, it's time for me to spend some big bucks, I gotta go to the board?
I would say most healthcare organizations now probably follow the vast majority of these. The healthcare went through a major kind of consolidation, right, where big healthcare orgs were snapping up mom and pop shops because they couldn't afford to implement some things like meaningful use, which is the electronic medical record kind of requirements from the government. So in my opinion, right, like if they're not doing this already, this is kind of just picking up the bottom of the bell curve to get people to meet some specific requirements. It's just like PCI adding, specifics around like mail security and two-factor, IRS mandating second-factor authentication. I think the government is really putting some screws on companies to pick up the bottom of the barrel, last dregs of potential within different industries and healthcare. HIPAA wasn't even really a security focus when it came out. It was more to protect patient data from inappropriate access.
Yeah.
So seeing it taking a security slant is definitely interesting.
It's like
So what about
having the hackers out there get it? That's definitely inappropriate access. So
at best?
finally taking its step into the 21st century.
I think I just cut your wires.
So I know how PCI is enforced, right? You have someone come out, you have a QSA, they do the evaluation, and you're either, PCI compliant or you're not. Is HIPAA more of a, we come back after all the meaningful information has been leaked out, and then we fine you? Like, or do you have like someone similar to like a QSA that comes in there to do an evaluation?
There are definitely governing bodies. A lot of the bigger healthcare orgs target high trust certifications, so third party auditing, so to guarantee you're meeting certain controls. So it's kind of like a mix between NIST 853, NIST 800 171, and kind of the HIPAA regulations. Then you get like some other agencies like JCO, right? They're going to come out and do like assessments around your healthcare workflows and clinical practice best practices. So there's definitely a lot of third party auditing, but I would say this is probably going to be either part of like the high trust certification to check that you're meeting these criteria and that you're having a third party audit attestation. Similar, like for me in financial services, you have like SOC 2 type 2 or SOC 2 type 1 are around security. SOC 1 is around like your financial auditing compliance.
Now get out of my
It'll be interesting times, and federal government has CMMC. I don't know if you've dug into that too much, but
Too much.
it's
Yeah.
a new fun standard that everyone's getting if you're a federal contractor or federal government. So getting there is definitely a big lift, focusing on the 800 171 framework from NIST.
You're going to say something, Chris?
I was going to say that you would think by now that most organizations would have these things, very basic security hygiene, but just look no further than Change Healthcare, right? And the way they got in was a Citrix box that had single-factor authentication. They got a list of stolen accounts, and they were able to get in and get what they want. So it was multi-factor authentication would have stopped it, proper network segmentation would have stopped it, or some kind of vulnerability scanning to say, hey, you got this box that has single-factor out there, like better turn on multi-factor. So you would think that by now people would have learned, but apparently not, and maybe I don't know what the bite is to this, if there's going to be financial fines that are associated with it, but we'll have to see if it's like your U.S. Airways example, Brian, where people it's cheaper to pay the fine than to fix the problem.
Yeah, dude.
It could be. I think.
Go ahead.
Go, Brian.
No, mine's just dumb.
I was going to say it'll be interesting to see. I think this will help give some security leaders a little bit of teeth, or at least some backing. Right, healthcare is notoriously cheap, right? Like they're usually. My joke was always like, look 5 years back and what they were doing in like financial services or tech, and 5 to 10 years back, and that's what they're doing in healthcare today.
Yeah.
It's definitely a lagging industry just because of the nature of patient safety being so critical. So they don't do a lot of cutting edge, but this will give probably some very tired, very very sad and burnt out CISOs hopefully some new budget life to implement some of these things that they've probably been screaming about for years.
So back in my F5 days, we were doing WAF, and there was a use case for HIPAA, and I was going into healthcare thing. I was kind of early into my career, maybe not. Anyways, I'm going up competitive thing. It's F5 WAF before they were leader, right? I helped build that, but against Imperva, which is like the de facto standard. So I go on there, and I think I'm King S of F Boy Mountain, right? Just talking crap, left, right, and center, and drawing stuff up on the board. And the guy goes, "What the hell is HIPAA? HIPPA?" And I was like, "What do you mean? You guys haven't heard of this? Let me tell you, like this is critical to have it." And he's like, "No, I don't think you have heard of it." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "It's HIPAA." I was like, "Anyways, we lost the deal."
Brian didn't know the acronym.
I did not know it.
I've
It's
actually seen
dyslexia.
it both ways, HIPPA and HIPAA. It's like privacy and portability, or accountability and affordability. I don't know. I've seen it both ways, so I don't blame you for it. We
Look
should
at
actually
Chris
ask
covering for his boy.
Grok.
Love you, man.
When I looked
You're
it
in
up,
the, if,
yeah, and for this
yeah.
article, it said portability and accountability act.
If you were in the room that day, you would have saved Brian.
I would have.
He'd be like, "Excuse me, guys, I have something to say."
Well, actually,
Point of fact.
According to my calculations.
See a horde.
all right, for our last topic, and it'll be a rotating topic every week. This week, we're going to talk about what Locke has done, something that many of us and our listeners want to know more about. You went from a sales engineer to a CISO. So what made you go down that path, and what advice would you offer an SE who wants to follow that particular career path?
Yeah. So it's definitely a winding road, right? Like, the driving point of my career has always been kind of being a technologist. So being, a leader at companies, driving best practices, driving tools, technology, processes, they're all very applicable skill sets. I reached a point in my career where, from being a client or on the company side, you just get burnt out, and it's a grind, right? Like, there's politics, it's Game of Thrones every day. You get into some bigger orgs. um you know we were just talking about McKesson as an example, right? They're big, they're matrixed. Everybody's just trying to get what they want done, and nobody cares what you want done. And so it's a grind. So, taking my things that I loved and moving them over to an SE career, right? You see a lot of industry people shifting over to SE roles. But then, really, when I stepped into the SE role, it gave me an opportunity to learn so much more about sales motions, like the needs of clients, looking at my experience and articulating that from a sales perspective, being able to be the voice of the customer, really, really sharpen my ability to speak, to educate, to grow, and speak to another level of resource, whether it be C levels or, um, just industry professionals, and then the networking, right? Like, so understanding how sales processes work. So taking that, shifting it back into, being a customer, really gave me the opportunity to take that deep seated kind of like boots on the ground, getting stuff done, building teams, growing programs, coupling it with, having a financial understanding, a better way to articulate to executive leadership something that's maybe fairly nuanced and technical, and translate that to business language, and really looking at it from that perspective helped me grow, right? And then be able to speak at that language and that level, obviously helps me too get good opportunities, get deals, how to talk with sales partners, help them understand what my sales process needs are, and understanding the terminology and the language, and working with them to form a partnership, right? One of the things salespeople always want to do is build a relationship, build a partnership, and have open, honest conversations about solving business problems. So coming out up front with that helps me get better opportunities, get better deals, and better pricing as a customer, which is good for me.
I think Brian and I actually followed a very similar path, I would say. I guess we were both practitioners, and then I went on the tech support side, and then I became pre-sales. I think, Brian, same with you. You were on the practitioner side, and then you went to pre-sales.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you. So, knock on the door. You guys can't hear that, but the microphone picked it up. Sales guy going, is trying to sell into you now. Is your ability to detect BS like through the roof? Like, can you read that sales motion a lot easier now that you were on?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, oh, this is the best deal we're gonna get. It's year end. All the little tricks that you can throw in there. But I'm also upfront, and I tell my sales partners and potential partners, like, here's who I am. here's what I need, right? Like I'm very upfront, I'm very direct. I don't, you know, I don't maybe come at them as from a place of mistrust as many clients do probably, just because I understand what they're going through too, right? Like they're humans just like me. They're doing a job, and they've been through many med pick training sessions, or challenger books they've read, and all the different kind of sales motions and opportunities and stuff like that. So just having that upfront conversation helps, I think, level set that. And a lot of times they want to cut the bullshit too. They just want to kind of get to the opportunity. What's your timeline? What's your budget? So being able to short circuit that sometimes helps, and obviously I see benefits from that too.
Nice. And going from the practitioner side to an SE, right? You're still just an individual contributor. So now you've completely switched out. Now you are a leader, right? And you have to lead people. So you have to kind of I'm curious, like that change, was that difficult for you? Is it hard to have to start?
I was a
talking
leader.
legal
Yeah,
as well?
I was a leader before
Okay.
I transitioned over to sales engineering. So my last job at Stanford, I was the director of medical imaging. So I owned all the medical imaging divisions: dermatology, ophthalmology, radiology, cardiology, and the teams associated with that. So we ran. Anytime you go to get an X-ray, right? Like that goes into a system. Those are all the systems that I managed and maintained. Your EMR, electronic medical record data. So I ran big teams doing that. At McKesson, I was before I transitioned over to Splunk, I was running Splunk, right? Like I was running a global team implementing security analytics and security automation. We built a 40 petabyte a day Kafka Connect ingestion pipeline that fed Splunk, that's fed 3 or 4 different automation platforms. And that's where I burnt out right in the Game of Thrones world, and just said, okay, I'm going to go back to be an IC, individual contributor. Loved it at Splunk. I loved the product, loved the team I worked with, and that's really where I got the opportunity at Splunk to work within their strategics group. Obviously, because I was a leader, so I could speak, with a kind of a strategic mindset, but also love the technology, love getting my hands dirty, love the sales process. Um, and then the reason I really came back to the customer is I was at a startup after Splunk, and they were going from their Series C to their Series D, and the VC said, "Sorry, we don't have any money for you to go Series D," so they laid off half the company.
Oh no.
I was low man on the totem pole, got caught up in a riff, and scrambling to find a new career. This opportunity came up to build really a security program from scratch. I started with one infrastructure guy, and rolled in, and now we're about 12 people
Nice.
building out from scratch. So we've got operations, engineering, governance, risk, and compliance. We're building out privacy right now. So a little bit of everything.
All right, last question, I'll let Chris go. So you don't have to say it from the lens of today. Let's just say it's like your last day of work, wherever you're at. Maybe it's 5 years from now or 20 years from now. You have to rate these in order of your favorite versus the one you hate the most to interact with. Your options are the board, legal, or the developers. Who's the best one you like to work with and the worst one?
I love working with legal,
You do?
right?
Okay.
Because there's always a direction, right? There's a reason why they're having that frame of mind. Um, I'd say then the board, and then developers.
Yeah, buddy.
Developers.
We love the developers, but yeah. This is your least favorite, not hate. Well, it's a strong word, so thank you.
Yep.
And the board is an interesting one because, call it 5 years ago, security wasn't even a board priority. It was, how do we maximize revenue? What are we doing? How are we compensating people fairly? What's our brand strategy? And then now, it's security is a board level discussion. It's a phrase we use a lot, but it's true that you want to definitely stay out of the news. You don't want your name to be associated with something disastrous, and it is immensely important that the board be on board with the security strategy.
John or Cruz can hear us. Can you guys jump?
Yeah, I think that that's still an evolving relationship, right? The board relationship in general is
So yeah, don't open the bank.
depends on where you're at, right? And it depends on the board, right? Like so
Yeah.
if it's a board of
Open the door so that
external leaders that are helping kind of create a different perspective for the organization versus, a board that's created, as kind of like a high five, like great job, you're on the board now, but you've been here for 25 years and you know everything about the company, and there's not really any pushback or opportunity there. So and then CISOs in general too are there's such a broad spectrum from just your maybe you're reporting to a CTO who reports to a CIO who reports to a COO who reports to a CEO, and then there's CISOs that report directly to the CEO, and they've got direct pipeline into budgets and capabilities. So it's definitely still a spectrum within the world today.
All right. So my question is, what's the risk? And I frame it in a way that we've read report. I mean, here at Zsco, at least they throw out some stats. I don't know how true they are, but I'm sure it's been commissioned by some study. Like the average shelf life of a CISO, 1.8 years, something like that. And for various reasons, maybe you can dive into that. But also, what's the risk? Like if your company, hopefully not yours, knock on wood, gets breached and there's a major security incident, is that something that you'll never work as a CISO again? You'll never be trusted in the security industry again? Or do you find like the industry has a short memory and you can be a fellow somewhere, or you could become the CISO somewhere? Like, what's your perspective on those two about what the risk is?
I think we've matured, and the concept of it's not if but when is very broadly respected and understood, right? It's almost a buzzword at this point. So I would say that any company you would want to work for would probably be on the respecting end of, an incident happened, and it's going to be more about how you manage that incident, right? If your sky's on fire, everybody's running around, we don't know what we're doing, we don't have any process, blaming, finger pointing, right? Like that's going to be a bad day, no matter what. And that's any job, right? If you're a CIO or you're a entry level desktop engineer, right? Like you're not gonna do so great. So I really do think that the industry in general understands that that's honestly part of a CISO's role, which is probably why they do have such a high burnout rate, because your responsibility is when that bomb hits, right? You're there to take care of it and do it in a meaningful way that prevents the company from being exposed further, or to mitigate the blast radius of that incident.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And we've seen, I mean, every year we have major cyber incidents. We've seen really good response where they're very transparent and very proactive about alerting people, and then we've seen not so good responses when people try to cover it up and say, no, it's not actually us, and then you find out later, well, it actually was us. So there's different responses to that, and I see your point that if it's not a if but when, and when it happens, how you handle the pressure, how you perform, how quickly you can get back online if you got knocked online, and that's usually the measure of how that's a measure of performance. Probably last question, then we'll get to our dad joke. What do you think your biggest challenge was building your team from one infrastructure engineer to 12 now, strong now?
Probably just getting the resource approval, right? I think that's working for a financial services firm, everything is driven by financial kind of ROI. So kind of building that, you have to have a certain scale within your organization to be able to justify certain skill sets. And then once that justification is through, I think we've seen some really strong talent, right? There's a lot of resources on the market that are really amazing. Unfortunately, we're seeing a little bit of a trend towards layoffs within the industry. So, hopefully at some point we fill those 300,000 cybersecurity jobs that have been open since 2012, I think, is that metric's been around. But in general, I think for me, it's been getting the kind of mass to justify the roles that I need within the operations.
I said that was going to be the last question, but what you said actually spawned one more. This will be the final question.
Someone opened the door.
Within that hiring, justifying the headcount of that, where does AI play a role? Can I say, I'll hire one person, but with the power of AI, that person actually do the job of 3 people? Like, can you spin it that way, or what's the role of AI in general?
Not yet. I think automation still has a stronger weight in that conversation. AI helping facilitate maybe delivering automation more quickly is more where I've seen benefit. Operationally, the AI conversation is more around can I do more with what I have, right? It's not so much a driver to get more resources or hire less resources. It's generally a tool that's seen as a way to offset existing process or existing workload to then take your resources that you have today and maybe have them focus on something else so that AI and automation can take on some of those mundane day-to-day things.
Yeah, I think I'm of the same mind that like an AI agent is not going to replace a programmer, but it could take a good programmer and make him a great programmer, and a great programmer into a principal programmer. So I think it's beneficial, but I don't think it's replacing any major job roles anytime soon.
Can't believe after all that.
All right, well, we continue to get great comments about our dad joke of the week.
Dad joke of the week.
This week, our guest Lock is up.
That's kind of a
All right, no pressure. Brian was texting me, and I told him I'd have to reach into my database for dad jokes.
Wah, wah.
Imagine if Americans switched from pounds to kilograms overnight. There'd be mass confusion.
Dun-dun-dunch.
That's a good one.
Glenn, we lost Glenn, by the way. He's not even here anymore. So
Yeah, you didn't notice. He's not just quiet.
He
actually left
dropped
the
as
show
soon as I gave that dad joke. He just rolled his eyes and blinked.
as well. Maybe if Canada becomes our 51st state, they're definitely going to have to switch from kilos to pounds, and there'll be mass confusion. All right, to wrap things up, internet-connected devices are getting a security label. North Korea has diversified its income streams. HIPAA is finally getting a cybersecurity overhaul. And becoming a CISO from an SE is doable, but might not be for everyone. That's all I have for this week. We hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Find us on LinkedIn. Links will be in the description. Follow us on Instagram at PEBCAK Podcast. Thank you to our listeners and subscribers. Rate us 5 stars in the iTunes Store and Spotify and left us a review. We appreciate you all spreading the word to help grow the show. The best way to find us is to search for the PEBCAK Podcast in your favorite podcast listening app. My co-host Brian Deitch and Glenn Medina, and our guest Locke Langdon. I'm Chris Louie. Thanks for listening. We'll see you all next week, and as always, have a nice day.
Bye, Felicia. I'll do it for him.
Have a nice day.
Time for us to get the hell out of here.
Prepare for exfil. Marking site.
It's down in between
You're
the
not
bowling
supposed to
alley and
actually bite the bullet, you know.
yeah, bowling alley and the bank in between.
Alpha team, clear out the LZ or evac ain't happening. On final approach to exfil location.
I read these things cause hyperactivity in rats.
How do you have an insta kill all the time?
Keep stepping up, I dare you.
Oh, nice.
You got 30 seconds to catch that ride.
That's all. What? I don't see
It's
any
now
more.
or never, Alpha.
Where is it? Where?
Crushed you like a beer can.
The other one right here. You gotta be kidding me. Did we get it? Nice. Nice. Not often we get one of those.